project is My Healthy Life Coach. I'd like to talk about what abuse does to people. I was physically abused, and the last thing I want is my daughter that's 23 to experience the same thing I have. So I like to create a project where we reduce abuse. I'm going to my psychologist at 4 o'clock, so I have to leave early because of my problems. So I understand the problem of abuse. I'd like to have him team up with me. He mentioned that he's willing to, so we changed structures a little bit. I got to make sure that now that I changed structures, that he's still interested. One statistic is that 1 in 5 adults in the U.S., 43.8 million people, experience mental illness. And I believe that that's too much. We need to reduce it. Hate and abuse are spreading like wildfire, and so is mental illness. There's a relationship between the two. Once someone's abused, there's a good chance that they're going to be in mental illness. So if we reduce the mental illness, if we reduce the hate and the abuse, we can reduce the mental illness at the same time. Here's my project plan, and I'm supposed to be doing this now, so I'm on schedule. Yes. So I had some obstacles along the way, but I had a good coach. Undergrad students, when they're in college, those 4 years, 23% of the females and 5.4% of the males experience rape or sexual assault. You see what that's doing to our society. We're taking some of the brightest and we're destroying them. And then a few years after they get out of college, they're seeing a psychologist and dropping out of their job. College-age victims of sexual abuse are often they do not report to law enforcement. 18 to 24-year-old females that are not in college are even higher risk than the college students. So you see those stats are, to me, alarming, and they need to be changed. My daughter's at UC Riverside right now, so I do have a concern for her. She's 23 years old, like I said, so she's right in the target range, and I do have concerns. And I got my reference from rain.org. I already mentioned this before, is that I think we can prevent abuse. I mean, if we reduce abuse, it changes the life in many, because how much the abuse does change someone. These are some of the things that you can expect from someone with abuse. Thoughts of suicide, possible attempts, unable to work or go to school, collecting disabilities, PTSD, depression, anxiety. The person with abuse is not living the life that they were born to live. They're on a new projectile. And they live an altered life, one that they don't deserve. When one neighbor rapes another neighbor or abuses them, we're all affected. It's not just between the two of them. We're going to be sponsoring that victim for the rest of her life or his life. So abuse doesn't end with the victim. And I think abuse is something that we all need to work together with. I've heard it said before, it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village to help someone heal from that type of problem. My idea is to have someone that has a life coach that's willing to give people direction. If everybody had a life coach, they wouldn't make stupid mistakes. but not everybody can afford the life coach. And that's why I'm suggesting that a virtual life coach through a smartphone. It would be programmed with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a program where it can learn from itself. For example, you give someone advice and it works. You say, okay, that one works, I'm going to save it. The next advice didn't work. So you say, okay, I got to modify that advice. And so it works for everybody. So basically, this is an image of what she'll be looking at her smartphone, and she'll be getting advice from a virtual life coach. Here's what the app would look like, going through some sequences. So the person logs in to My Healthy Life Coach, and it will say something like, "Good morning, John. How you doing today?" If I plug in, if I say review pyramid, so you encourage them and give them pretty much one option, and it's so that wherever they stay on the mood chart, we can have a response for them. And that's just one type of response that the Life app would do. Like I said, it will be installed on the cell phone. That cell phone will be connected to a larger database, and the larger database is the one that learns. That's the one with artificial intelligence. The Life phone is pretty much some quick feedback on some simple questions. Later on, I might get into stuff like financial coach and that type of stuff. I believe this is a good representation of what a balanced person has. It's a little of everything, physically, emotionally, environmentally, financially, occupation, social, intellect, and spiritually. If they're well balanced and going down the path they want to go down, they have a better chance of survival. It would be alpha tested by the developers. It would be beta tested by groups volunteers such as DBSA, NAMI, when they're given some options they don't currently think of. People, let's say that 90% of the time or 95% of the time they make good choices. It's the other 5% or 2%, whatever we want to say, that they slip, and that causes there's problems in their lifestyle. The first step is reducing the scale of the project. Afterwards, we can look at who we can form as a team to put this together. Do we have any questions or comments?
All right, questions, comments for John on this idea?
Yes.
So John, I really appreciated your presentation. It was very passionate, and I definitely get the empathy that you're bringing forward. Who do you think will use, what kind of person are you here to do? Who will use this app?
I think the first person to target, I mentioned DBSA, NAMI, and Recovery International. Those are people that have mental illness, and so it would help them out. Then I think the next target would be anybody. If you want to go on a date and you have your goal in that date, you tell the life coach what your goals are. If it's just to have a good time, you say it lines you up for that. If it's just a cup of coffee and something, or if it's more intimate, tell you to protect yourself, and so that you're not making stupid mistakes. It's basically saying, hey, I got your back. Let's walk down this path together.
Thank you.
Other questions, please?
Yes.
You will give me information on what the feedback was in getting advice from artificial intelligence, not an actual person.
I did get, my survey collected other information. I did run an interview survey, and I found out that people, I studied people with depression and surveyed them, and found out most of them that were molested or raped had issues. There's a strong correlation there. And half of them didn't work, or is not working, or is looking to go in SSDI, Social Security Disabilities Insurance. So we're spending money already on them. We gotta figure out how to reduce that.
Other questions, please?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to echo Lori's comment about your passion and your emotional connection to this is remarkable, and thank you for sharing. I think that's great. My question is more around kind of the artificial intelligence question. The sensitivity around, I guess, the human connection is really what makes a huge difference. In other words, it'd be nice to have everybody had their own coach like next door.
Yeah.
Right? In an ideal situation, that's what people say that they would want. Where is the human connection kind of more close than the virtual as part of this?
I hear you, and I agree with you. I think that one of the components in there, if I back up the slides, this one down here, it does mention social. And so we gotta integrate that into the program so that they say, okay, who are your friends? Why don't you call your friend at this point? So there is, I agree that artificial intelligence should not replace friends, but it can coexist with a friend. Yes?
Yeah, so I figure you've checked into online support groups and such like that, because I think that's one of the concerns. There's already a body of knowledge about internet-based supports, not necessarily as focused as a life coach, but certainly that's available. And when I look at your picture there, it reminds me of sort of what the county's already doing with Network of Care, which has a lot of these themes and resources available. So you basically, depending on how they responded to the questions of the day, you could give them some access to resources that already exist.
Right.
Yeah, no, I understood that. I want to make sure that people heard that
Yes.
as well.
And so that, for example, when they're suicidal, it's like, let me call,
Right.
and you're on the phone, I got you right there, time to make a phone call before you hang up.
Right. And certainly
And
healthcare-
that's just one example. 211 is another example.
Right.
And there's several different things in there where it's okay, I'm not gonna try to replace 211, but might have the phone number and the data that it could support
Right.
overall. And I think that's where it would be.
Any other questions, comments?
Yes.
Your intimate experience in this brings your passion forward, and that's what touches me. That connection.
That walk in the shoes, huh?
Yes,